Kleptocracy. Who is forced to pay for it? It's kind of an interesting question. 2009, there was several protests. One was for using government's health care, the big takeover plan like they're doing, although nobody really read the bill even until after it was passed. The one where they say that if you don't buy an approved plan, the government's going to poke a gun at your face or fine you $3,000 for not buying an approved insurance plan. Where does government have the right to force you into a contract? Where's the constitutional authority for that? Where does it exist? I'd like somebody to show me chapter and verse. But the protest of who was for it, let's see, the Center County Democrats in Pennsylvania sent out an email saying, hey, free buses will be at the PSEA office at 6:30 in the morning. They'll take you down as a Tuesday. I guess nobody works on Tuesdays. And the free buses, you see who paid for those free buses. We, the taxpayers, paid for those buses to a large degree because Acorn subsidized those buses. And the SEIU and a bunch of other unions subsidized those buses. Free buses. Later on, September 12th, was it? A Saturday, when people were off work, those do, we paid for our own buses and paid our own transportation there. And it was anywhere from $750,000 to $1.5 million. Who knows? Never get real. The papers said thousands. I've been to Penn State games, and the 100,000, 110,000 people fit in Penn State Stadium was swallowed up in that crowd in a heartbeat many times over. It was a lot of us. Those people showed up at our own expense, $50 a seat for us, me and my wife, and 3.5 other busloads of folks coming right out of State College, and hundreds of buses from elsewhere, and millions of people from elsewhere paid for it all themselves. To protest against government picking our pockets to do some social utopian plan for health care and further destroy any remnants of free market. So who paid up the protest for the money, for the stuff paid from somebody else, and who showed up the protest to say, don't rob me to pay for whatever? Something that's severely lacking is an understanding of what a moral premise of legitimate government is. We seem to get these collectivist utopians who think that we can just mandate that everything will be utopia and wonderful. We'll do free health care, and that'll make sick people well magically. Falsely equivalenting an insurance subsidy with actual treatment, which are two different things. Without getting into how they're driving the cost up of actual treatment and driving the number of providers out. What we really need to get into is that's arguing over the wrong kind of details. What moral premise do they have to force someone else into a contract that they didn't agree with? An honest contract is, say, you who's watching this and me who's providing this service have a mutual agreement that we're going to do something, whether you spend 5 minutes, 8 minutes of your time to watch this, or if I charge $1,000 a shot and you said, it's worth $1,000. I wish it was. It's not. But there's an agreement. But say, you who's watching this and me make an agreement that the guy down the street, he's going to pay $1,000 to you and $1,000 to me every time one of us watches it, so we're going to watch it all day, no matter how bad it is. The third party had no consideration in that contract. It's not really a valid contract. It's like we're the masses and they're the slave, and they're going to do what we tell them to do. Morally, that's and just because you have the wrappings, the color of law, because government is doing it, it doesn't make it right. If you don't know the moral premise between what's legitimate and illegitimate government, you're forever doomed. Legitimate government. Everybody has the right to defend their life, liberty, property, pursuit of happiness. You can extend to someone else the privilege of protecting your life, your property, you're going to have to do your own pursuit of happiness. They could clear the road a little bit. As long as it doesn't, just like as if you do it, violate somebody else's right, and what they do doesn't violate somebody else's right. So we could call them government or some private contractor. That would be legitimate. But again, back to that phony contract where you and whoever's watching this, and we make a contract with do with somebody else or their kids or their grandkids, it will just transgenerational debt. We'll just get all this shit and hand in the credit card bill. We have the credit card, buy what we want. We're stimulating the economy. And we'll F them, leave them with a bill because debts don't matter. Dick Cheney, asshole. Moron, thief. Why did we put him in there? Because we're stupid. We buy into this stuff. It pays to have low friends in high places, doesn't it? They can force all those things. AIG, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Chrysler, Bank of America, Goldman Sachs, the whole litany of these latest round of thieves. And we dig back a couple of years, we'll find a whole bunch more. And they get bailed out by their low friends in high places government, which is basically robbing that other guy. And let them collapse. In a capitalism free market, they collapse, they die, they're gone. Larry the liquidator comes in, sells their stuff. End of show. That would be the moral government. What we have when they bail them out, no matter how much they want to say, we don't like it, crocodile tears, it's fascism. No constitutional authority. It's not just because it says it's in the Constitution, but it's back to the moral premise. The Constitution was built around a premise of what legitimate government was, with a difference of illegitimate government. You read the Bill of Rights, it's to protect you from the government. Protect you from the government. Bill of Rights. To get the government off my back. You have a right to freedom of speech. To complain about the government. To demand redress. Hey, you assholes, knock it off. To assembly. Freedom of the press. These rights are explicit to protect you from the government. You have a right to defend yourself. That includes from your own government. To not be forced to quarter soldiers and all that. It goes down the list. But if you don't know the fundamental premise that legitimate government is to protect your rights and no more, you're going to be screwed. And anybody gets in there, it doesn't have a really valid moral premise. They just have the premise of wanting to grab the power of government and use it for themselves. Like those guys who claim they had a free bus. And they made us pay for it, and they're making us pay for not only their free buses, but the propaganda that now we have to subsidize everything else. No wonder they were growly pickling our pockets to give an excuse to continue to pick our pockets. Fuck off. Yeah, it's a bunch of kleptocrats. And without a foundation, a moral foundation, you cannot tell the difference between one law and another law, whether it's moral or immoral. And if you just think, well, if it's a law, it's okay, right? Well, then whatever the Nazis did was okay because they passed a law. Whatever Mao did in the execution and the starvation of millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of his own people. Irrelevant. But hey, if you believe your thing, you don't carry any corpses. Make that pile of stuff. As long as you can get yours at somebody else's expense. The unearned. Isn't that nice? It's good to have low friends in high places, especially if you're a professional thief like many of our politicians. Moral premise of government, immoral premises. Always has to be at the very top of the topic. So part of this is who is forced to pay for it. Who complains the most? Why? Is it the lying bullshit? Oh, they're racist. No, actually, they don't want to be robbed. They don't want to be raped and forced to pay for somebody else's crap. The other people don't owe us anything. We don't owe them anything other than equal, decent respect for their life as we want them for ours, their liberty as we want them for ours, their pursuit of happiness as we want respect for ours, their liberty, their freedom, all that. Equal respect. I want mine respected. Yours deserves respected. But you don't get to pick my pocket. I don't get to pick your pocket for my benefit. That's kleptocracy. That's theft. Have a nice day.